Thank you for watching QTV News. We take a look at stories making headlines in our news. The Constitutional Court has set 29 November 2019 as the date for ruling on the constitutionality of the Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 of 2019. Veteran politician Vernon Mwanga has called for the immediate withdrawal of the Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 of 2019 from Parliament, and developers in the controversial Forest 27 have been advised to stop putting up structures or risk having them demolished. And now the news in detail. The Constitutional Court has set Friday, November 29th, 2019 as the date for ruling on the constitutionality of the Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 of 2019. Constitutional Court President Hilda Chibomba set the date after petitioners, the Law Association of Zambia LAS, and Chapter 1 Foundation and the state made their closing oral submissions. When the matter came up, LAS argued that at every stage of the process to amend the Constitution using Bill 10, the state is still in violation of the Constitution. The association's lawyer Jeffrey Chimakata contended that while the Republican President and the National Assembly have power to initiate a bill and to amend the Constitution, such powers ought to be exercised within the provisions of the Constitution. Mr. Chimakata argued the Republican Constitution has already provided safeguards to the extent that amending the Constitution should be in line with Article 8. He further submitted that by using the National Dialogue Forum NDF to commence the process of amending the Constitution, the state violated this provision which espouses constitutionalism and democracy. The counsel representing Chapter 1 Foundation, Linda Kasonde, also contended that the NDF was not the right forum to commence the process to amend the Republican Constitution. Ms. Kasonde submitted that the court should declare as unconstitutional the process commenced by government to amend the Constitution. In reply to the petitioners, both Attorney General Likanda Kalaluka and Solicitor General Abraham Mwansa urged the court to dismiss the petitions as the state has not violated the Republican Constitution by initiating Bill 10 to commence the amendment process. Veteran politician Vernon Mwanga has called for the immediate withdrawal of the Constitution Amendment Bill 10 of 2019 from Parliament on account that there was no adequate consultation with various stakeholders. Last week, Vice President Nongewina told Parliament that the bill will not be withdrawn from Parliament on account of some contentious clauses. But Dr. Mwanga has told QTV News in an interview that it is wrong to use a party-sponsored forum to agree on amendments to the Constitution and expect Parliament to approve the amendments. He says what this means is that each government that comes into power will subject the Constitution process to its own amendment forum, a situation he says is costly to the country. Dr. Mwanga notes that a constitution should stand the test of time, adding that the only way to amend it should be by involving representatives of the people, so that Parliament does not become a rubber stamp for amendments of a party-sponsored forum.
You don't go to a party-sponsored forum and you agree on constitution amendments which you expect Parliament to pass. What this means is that, with each government that comes into power, we are going to be having amendments galore. Constitutions should withstand the test of time. The only way you can do that and guarantee that is by involving the people, by involving the representatives of the people, so that Parliament does not just become a rubber stamp for amendments which have been agreed elsewhere and brought to Parliament for adoption. My view is that there was not adequate consultation with regard to Bill 10, and that it should be subjected to a lot more consultation. More people should be involved, including civil society, political parties, ordinary citizens, so that they can have a say on Bill 10.
Zambia joined the rest of the world in marking the launch of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. The local theme for 2019 is Raising an Equality-Conscious Generation Against Gender-Based Violence, while the global theme is Orange the World, Generation Equality Stands Against Rape. A total of 6,788 cases of gender-based violence were reported countrywide during the third quarter of 2019, compared to 6,114 recorded in the third quarter of 2018, an increase by 674 cases and a percentage increase of 9.9%. Speaking during the launch of the 16 Days of Activism, United Nations Acting Country Coordinator George Okuto expressed concern that the increase in the gender-based violence in Zambia is a threat to progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. Favorite Kalando has more details in this report.
I didn't know what to do, even when I knew what he was doing to me was not right, but I couldn't find the power to raise up and tell him to stop whatever he was doing.
This is Ilia Mupuchpasha, a gender-based violence survivor who shared her story of her abusive relationship. She was forced into marriage at the age of 15 years by her father.
It happened in such a way that at the age of 15 years, my father had to cause me to drop out of school when I was doing my grade 8 in the rural part of Zambia in Kaoma, Western Province, Kalumange resettlement scheme in particular, to go and get married to an army sergeant who was 35 years my senior. It was difficult because I never knew that man.
United States Ambassador to Zambia Daniel Foote and non-governmental gender organizations coordinating council board chairperson Mary Mlenga are worried that GBV remains a formidable barrier in Zambia.
For all of you tough guys who think it's cool to beat up women, you're cowards. For any man here or anywhere who would raise their hand against a woman, you're a coward.
It is sad that despite the fact that Zambia has a law specifically against GBV, the scourge remains endemic in our families, in our communities, and indeed the society at large.
During the third quarter of 2019, a total of 6,788 cases of GBV were reported countrywide, compared to 6,114 recorded in the third quarter of 2018, showing an increase by 674 cases, translating to 9.9% increase. This number has worried the United Nations.
All still need to be done, as I say. That is why on this day, we at the United Nations renew our commitment to do everything in our powers to put an end to violence against women and girls. And we call on our partners to join us in committing to make violence against women and girls a thing of the past.
Gender Minister Elizabeth Perry, who launched the annual 16 days of activism against gender-based violence at Prince Takamota Basic School in Baulen, shares what government is doing to eliminate gender-based violence in Zambia.
In this regard, my ministry has in place, among other instruments and tools, the National Referral Mechanism on Gender-Based Violence Handbook, which is to survivors to make them understand what to expect when they report an incident to the police and or when they visit a health care facility following instances of violence.
For Chpasha, she has learned her lessons and strongly advises other women in such kind of relationships to leave their violent partners.
Marriage is the vehicle, yes. But to you, my sister, that went through what I went through, it is okay. It would be wise for you to think twice. Make that choice which would give you independence for life. I'm not saying right now from here you go and say you are divorcing whoever is abusing you. Most of the time, even women, we also do abuse people. But all I can say is a failed relationship. To me, I view it to be a far much better relationship than returning back to your own parents in a coffin.
Developers in the controversial Lusaka East Local Forest Reserve number 27 have been advised to stop putting up structures or risk having them demolished. William Harrington, one of the two petitioners who have petitioned the Chief Justice to appoint a tribunal to investigate the degazation of the Forest 27 by Lands Minister Jean Kapata and the subsequent allocation of plots in the same, says those putting up structures in Forest 27 should stop forthwith. Speaking at a media briefing, Mr. Harrington, who is former Environment Minister, says they submitted a letter to the Deputy Chief Justice on November 18th containing evidence that the Minister of Lands did not follow procedure in allowing for the developments in Forest 27. Mr. Harrington says following the submissions of the letter with evidence, they remain highly optimistic that a tribunal will be appointed, which might lead to the developers being served with letters of stoppage.
But the big ones, 5 hectares, Wina Inonge, Matibini, 3 hectares, the big ones, have you seen? Mambirima, 3 hectares, Wanchinga, Kasmwanda, Chulufia, I don't know who this Chulufia, Kapata, you see here, Kapata, 3 hectares. Findley. Director for Findley, the biggest, most primers on the corner, 2.2 hectares. Most of the big ones are given to these senior government officials. Now, the whole thing was short-circuited, short-cutted, and ignored statutory bodies created by government to assist government, to guide government, to advise government on environmental issues such as that critical water reserve. All these were ignored. And I must say it's very shameful that this government of ours can ignore institutions set up by government through acts of parliament. So we want to take this opportunity to warn and caution, to give friendly warning and caution to anyone and all those developing plots in the Forest Reserve number 27 to refrain from doing so, as the whole degasation process is pregnant with illegalities, and we are ready, willing and able to prove in the tribunal once appointed. As things stand, all developments in the Forest Reserve are illegal. All 4 developments in the Forest Reserve are illegal. And here when I say all developments, I mean even roads which are being graded by National Service. It's an illegality.
Speaking at the same briefing, co-petitioner and environmental activist Robert Chimambo says they remain committed to ensuring that punitive action is taken against the 2 ministers of lands and natural resources and water and environmental protection, Jean Kapata and Dr. Dennis Wanchinga respectively, for not following the presidential directive to help preserve the forests in the country.
As a people, as concerned citizens, as Zambians, if instructions are given to the people, the person who has been put there to carry out those instructions, you don't expect, of course, President Lungu to go in the forest reserve and stop. No. We elect the president, we elect the people that should assist him. One of those, or 2 of those, are Honorable Kampata and Wanchinga, to go and carry out the instruction of the president. Now, what happens if they don't carry out the instructions? Because we employed them, isn't it? So we as Zambians, we as their employers now must take action. So we are now thinking of punitive measures to make sure to force Honorable Wanchinga and Chakampata to carry out the instructions that the president has given. That's a policy directive you cannot refuse. So we are thinking, already in contact with our legal counsel, to ensure that we take now Wanchinga and...
Meanwhile, Mr. Chimambo has noted the need for the country to come up with a law that will see prosecution of technocrats giving false information on developments to the head of state and ministers. He was commenting on an article in one of the tabloids, quoting Lusaka Town Clerk Alex Mansard, saying that the developments in Forest 27 were approved.
He cannot go around and say, no, Honorable Lusambo is the one who forced me. No, you yourself, Mwansa, must be held accountable.
As I'm on box.
So this is what we must do. These so-called experts who are giving wrong advice to our ministers should be held accountable. Like those guys in 1945 after the war, the principle has been laid. So Mr. Mwansa, be ready to be held accountable for the wrong advice you are giving, yes, that you can approve things in Forest Reserve 27, in Tulo ya Mumana, even in Bemba Tulandashani, Tabala Mfiakun Tulo, and his Mwansa. Doesn't he know that?
Useless, yeah.
So this is the problem we have. Even if you are blaming politicians, we have problems with our technocrats. And you see for yourself when you look here, you find that the same guys who are supposed to advise, so now they give themselves in front, they put Honorable Mambirima, Kapata, they are hiding behind these people.
In reference to this story here, my friend Richard Sakala is editor of this newspaper. This statement appearing on the front page of his newspaper today, Monday, 25th, 2019, is highly misleading. It is irresponsible. It is erroneous and misleading. It's a misleading headline. Yes, the council may have approved building plans. Building plans approved doesn't mean they have approved people to build in that forest where it's an illegality.
President Edgar Lungu has been advised to realize that he is setting a very bad precedent by refusing to take a leading role in respecting court rulings. Bishop John Mambo has observed that despite being a lawyer, President Lungu is still obstinate about the Constitutional Court ruling which ordered ministers who stayed in office illegally in 2016 to pay back the money they received in salaries and allowances. Bishop Mambo says Zambia is now becoming a laughingstock as a result, and as it is being viewed by the outside world as a country which does not respect decisions made by the courts. He has told QTV News that in his view it is imperative that President Edgar Lungu takes a lead in ensuring that decisions made by the courts are respected regardless of who is involved.
This is what I'm saying. It's an embarrassing that you have in this country, you have each time you want to remove the immunity of the president once he leaves office. That's not good. What legacy do you leave behind? You are better off doing what is right. Of course, people call you names. They call me names myself. I served the longest in the Church of God. They call me names. But what proof do they have? Because what is there is you leave legacy. You leave, in my case, you leave churches, you leave members, and you move on also. Don't go and start a bar, go and start other churches, so that those who are lost can see the glory of the Lord. So what we are saying here is that, look, it's a precedent. It doesn't eager well. It's my humble appeal that let us do it. If I'm found wanting, I'm overspeeding myself. Ratsa or the traffic police won't say because it's Bishop Mambo. No, I have to pay fine, or I must come out with a very, very strong apology. But in this case, twice. If the Patriotic Front Secretary General didn't appeal against it. Now, this is another thing where it's sad, where people can talk of impeachment and all that, is that the number one lawyer in the country is the Attorney General. The Attorney General advised, but the President says, I'm also a lawyer, I'm going to read and all that. You don't do that.
Government has been challenged to show proof that indeed $27 million was paid to ESCOM of South Africa towards the importation of 300 megawatts of electricity. Patriots for Economic Progress PEP President Sean Tembo says government should also account how the power currently being imported is being distributed. Mr. Tembo is concerned that despite the alleged importation of 300 megawatts of electricity, there is no improvement in load shedding across the country. He has told QTV News that without a proper and sound explanation by government, citizens will be entitled to conclude that the 300 megawatts of electricity was never imported at all, and that the $27 million ended up in some government officials' offshore personal bank accounts.
As Patriots for Economic Progress, we are concerned that despite government having announced to the nation that they had imported 300 megawatts of power from ESCOM, there is no significant change in terms of road shedding hours. We are still seeing 18 hours of road shedding in most parts of the country, and we are wondering whether indeed that power was imported by government. The trouble with importing power is that it is not a physical substance which we can all see and verify. And it is possible that government did not import the 300 megawatts. They could have only imported 50 megawatts or even 20 megawatts. And yet we are told that about $27 million was paid in that regard. So we would like to challenge government to show proof that indeed that money was paid to ESCOM and that indeed that 300 megawatts of power was important to this country. Without any such proof, then the Zambian people would be correct to basically conclude that government officials have stolen money which was meant for importation of power, because there is no change in terms of load shedding in this country.
Acting President Nongewina says the late Chilubi Member of Parliament, Rosaria Fundanga, was not only an asset to the people of Chilubi, but to the nation and the Patriotic Front Party. Speaking during the church service for the late Mrs. Fundanga at St. Ignatius Catholic Church in Lusaka, Mrs. Wina described the late Member of Parliament as a vibrant member who was courageous and determined to achieve her goals. Mrs. Wina says the late Chilubi Member of Parliament wanted to use her exposure in Zambia and the world at large to benefit the needy, especially those at grassroots level. Here's a report.
They have gathered to bid farewell to the late Chilubi Member of Parliament, Rosaria Fundanga, at St. Ignatius Catholic Church in Lusaka. Fellow members of Parliament have described her as a vibrant debater and one who served the people of Chilubi wholeheartedly. And speaking during the church service, Acting President Inongewina says the nation has lost an asset.
From this short description of her name, Mrs. Fundanga's 56 years can be referred to the life of a rose flower in a garden. To those who love gardening and flowers in particular, you will understand the importance of this statement. Indeed, to Dr. Fundanga, the children and the entire family, Mrs. Fundanga was a rose flower that brought smiles, charm, and beauty in all their measure.
The husband, Dr. Caleb Fundanga, paid his tribute through a representative.
Throughout our more than 30 years in knowing each other, I've always appreciated your wisdom and determination. You have been the brain power of our family, and your judgment was always correct. You are such a determined individual that you could not fail to achieve whatever you wanted to do. The best example to this is how, against all odds, you managed to be elected Chilubi constituency Member of Parliament.
We knew it would take us some time, but rest assured that you have equipped us with the tools and the values that we need to go through life. We promise to try and live every day of our lives in memory of you by honoring your legacy through kindness, laughter, wisdom, generosity, and life.
No one knew what was going to come. Just imagine, as we are seated here, you are the next. What next? Are you prepared?
Indeed, the Chilubi Member of Parliament will not only be missed by her family and the people of Chilubi, but the nation at large. Martha Katambi, QTV News in Lusaka.
Caritas Zambia has opposed intentions to set up mining activities in the Lower Zambezi National Park, stating that doing so will not in any way alleviate the poverty the people in the area are facing. Caritas Executive Director Eugene Kabirika feels enhancing tourism in the area has even more potential to alleviate poverty and has greater benefits to the people. Mr. Kabirika notes that local communities benefit very little or nothing at all from mining activities. He says the people who are advocating and championing for mining activities should find time to first visit the mining areas in the country to understand the consequences and impact mining has on the surrounding areas and the people. Mr. Kabirika states that protecting the ecosystem is important than introducing mining activities in the name of providing jobs and alleviating poverty in the area. He says once mining activities are introduced in the Lower Zambezi National Park, the ecosystem will move more to the Zimbabwean side, who will then have greater benefits.
I don't know whether those people understand that some of these areas that they're talking about are governed by international protocols, which Zambia is a signatory to. For example, the protection of the waters of the Zambezi, the protection of the waters of the Ruangwa, and indeed whatever happens around it. I mean, it has an international interest. It is not just ourselves there in Zambia think, oh, the mining will give us jobs and all that kind of stuff. No, we must also be aware of what that can cause to the others. So, my friendly advice to our colleagues in the Ruangwa, yes, we know the poverty situation in the country, not only in Ruangwa. Lower Zambezi or people who live around there. But throughout the country, poverty is very high. But we don't think that the poverty can be alleviated by actually mining there. We think that tourism can be able to bring jobs to those people. It can be able to increase the benefits that those people can draw from there. Because if we improve that area and we open up that area so that there is a lot of tourism, it will bring in more money than perhaps immediately than perhaps the mine might take. Because trying to mine there will take a long time before starting even yielding any benefits.
Energy Minister Matthew Nkua has refuted assertions that government has deliberately stopped the Copperbelt Energy Corporation CEC from importing power from South Africa to supply the mines in the country. Mr. Nkua states that CEC has a bulk supply agreement with ZESCO and that for as long as the power the CEC wants to import falls within this agreement, it can do so without any problem. Meanwhile, Mr. Nkua says Zambia is still exporting and importing power from Malawi. He says the country is currently exporting 12 megawatts and importing 5 megawatts from Malawi. In an interview with QTV News, Mr. Nkua has also disclosed that Zambia is paying 3.6 cents per kilowatt hour to import power into Lundazi from that country. He states that in turn, Malawi is being charged 10 cents per kilowatt hour for the power it is importing through Mchinji border.
CEC has got a bulk supply agreement with the ZESCO, and as long as the power that they want to import falls within the bulk supply agreement that they have got with ZESCO, then they can import. There's no problem. But they can import, but there's a bulk supply agreement. If you noticed in Parliament yesterday on Friday, we passed the electricity bill, National Assembly Bill number 16 of 2019. Well, not we passed, it went for the first reading. Okay? And then another bill which went for the first reading is the Energy Regulation Bill number 17 of 2019. And these bills are there to address the situation that you have talked about.
Kabwe Central Member of Parliament Tutu Angulube has expressed happiness that the reopening of Mulungushi textiles will once again provide employment for the people of Kabwe. Mr. Angulube says that Mulungushi Textiles is currently partially operational and has so far employed 1,000 people. He adds that once the installation of new equipment is completed, the company is expected to employ over 15,000 people. Government has been challenged to explain at what value it will refund farmers that failed to redeem inputs under the e-voucher system during the 2018-2019 farming season. UPND Chairperson for Rural Reconstruction, Mono Mapani, says he finds it embarrassing that government could talk about reimbursing the farmers almost halfway into the new farming season. Mr. Mapani believes it is too late for Vice President Inonge Wina to start assuring farmers now that they will be reimbursed when they are already in the farming season. He has told QTV News that as a farmer, the talk and actual reimbursement should have been done in June or July when farmers were making plans for the new season. Mr. Mapani states that given this delay in releasing funds owed to the farmers, he foresees the current hunger in the country persisting even next year.
Even if our good God is to give us good rainfall this season, it's late. And normally it's supposed to be government now to ensure that each family is given 4 pockets of fertilizer and a 10 kg of seed, whether cotton or maize, soybeans or anything. It's their responsibility. But because these people have failed to take ownership of whatever is happening in this country, they have ignored the farming sector. And you will find very difficult for anyone to start talking about development in this country when the sector that is supposed to prepare, the sector that is supposed to engineer the development we're talking about is ignored. What kind of miracle are they planning to perform? This government should change the attitude. And ministers should take serious that we are not here for games. This has to do with the lives of the citizens. Life has become unbearable. If these guys are not ready, it's not an insult to come out and tell the people of Zambia that we have failed and we have to go for any elections. It ends there.
Yellow Card campaigners are set to hold another Yellow Card campaign against corruption in Eastern Province this coming weekend. Human rights activist Michael Zulu has told QTV News that the Yellow Card campaign is meant to fight corruption and bad governance in the country. Mr. Zulu is happy that the number of people who have shown interest in taking part in the campaign has increased. He is hopeful that the Yellow Card against corruption will yield its intended purpose. Mr. Zulu says with or without a police permit, the planned gathering in Eastern Province will proceed.
The campaign is already yielding its intended purposes, because I think if you saw how we went against, for example, the mining in Lower Zambezi, we were some of the people that, protested on social media against mining in Lower Zambezi, and government yielded. So it is yielding results, and I think government is listening. I know there's been some adamance in a number of times, especially on the issue of Bill 10, the issue of government officials staying on. Even 2016, they used public money to campaign, disadvantaging people that, other people that were contesting. So these are issues that we may not be on the same page with government, and we'll still go on to remind the citizens that, Zambia is for everybody.
To end the news, we recap on stories making headlines. The Constitutional Court has set 29 November 2019 as the date for the ruling on the constitutionality of Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 of 2019. Veteran politician Vernon Mwanga has called for the immediate withdrawal of the Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 of 2019 from Parliament, and developers in the controversial Forest 27 have been advised to stop putting up structures or risk having them demolished. On that note, we end the news. Thank you for watching.